Okay, let's jump right into this. I want to start with a really wild, a slightly terrifying question.
All right, I'm ready.
I want you to imagine for a second. What if that heavy feeling that keeps you glued to your mattress in the morning, or, that spark that actually gets you out of it, what if those feelings weren't just random moods?
Okay.
What if they operated exactly like a fundamental force of nature?
You mean like gravity?
Exactly, like gravity. We don't
Right.
wake up and negotiate with gravity. We don't decide, hey, I think I'll float today. It pulls us down. It's a law.
It just is.
It just is.
Yeah.
So the question we're wrestling with today is, what if our emotions are just as mechanical? What if there is actual physics to why we feel what we feel?
It is a radical shift in perspective. I mean, usually we think of emotions as this internal weather system, unpredictable, mystical, something that just kind of happens to us.
Yeah, you wake up and you're in a bad mood,
Hmm.
and that's just the weather for the day.
Right. But today, we're tearing that down. We're looking at a theory that claims, no, there is an equation. There is a predictable mechanism. And if you understand the mechanism, you can technically fix the machine when it breaks.
And when we say fix the machine, we are not talking about fixing a bad mood or, cheering up after a breakup. We are talking about something much, much heavier.
ER.
We are doing a deep dive today into the work of Dr. Michael Lukens, specifically his physics of emotioning theory, or POE, and a clinical method he developed called core issue completion therapy. And we're applying this directly to the problem of depression.
Which is where the stakes get incredibly high. Because if Lukens is right, the way we typically treat depression as a chemical imbalance or a disease in the medical sense might be missing the mechanical root of the problem.
Right. And I want to be clear right off the top. We're going to explore a pretty controversial assertion from the source material.
Very.
Dr. Lukens argues that depression is not just sadness. In fact, he says it's a literal fracture in the human capacity to generate interest.
An interest fracture.
Yeah.
It's a powerful term.
It is. And to explain how that fracture happens, we're going to have to unpack a metaphor that, quite frankly, is the best name for a psychological concept I have ever heard.
I think I know which one you mean.
It's called the fuck it bucket.
It is vivid and deeply accurate.
Apparently, we all have one. And if yours is overflowing, that's when the lights go out. So here's our mission today. We are going to break down the physics equation of emotion. We're going to figure out what is, rotting inside that bucket.
And then the important part.
And then, and this is the part I'm most excited about, we are going to walk through about 6 or 7 actionable, concrete strategies to empty it.
And just to set the tone here, this isn't just about thinking positive. The approach we're looking at views depression as a blocked circuit.
A mechanical failure.
Exactly. It's a mechanical failure in your meaning-making machine.
Okay, let's pop the hood. Let's look at the schematics. Dr. Lukens centers his entire theory on an equation that looks like something straight out of a physics textbook. EMA.
E equals the function of MA.
Now, I'm terrible at math, so you're going to have to walk me through this. What is E?
E stands for emotioning. And notice the grammar there. Lukens uses the verb form, emotioning. He really wants to emphasize that emotion isn't a static thing that just sits in your pocket.
It's not a noun.
It's not a noun. It is an active process. It is a force. It is the motivational drive that pushes you to move.
Okay, so E is the fuel or the force, what creates it.
That's the MA part. M stands for meaning. The theory posits that human beings are fundamentally meaning-making machines.
You can't help it.
We cannot turn it off. Every single thing that hits your senses, a sound, a sensation, a look from your partner, your brain instantly assigns it a meaning. Is it safe? Is it a threat? Is it an insult?
And the A?
A is action. And this is the critical link that most people miss. The physics of emotioning states that meaning and action are inseparable. You cannot have one without the other.
Give me a real-world example of this, because that sounds a bit abstract. Meaning and action are the same thing.
Well, think about it this way. Imagine you're at work and you get an email from your boss. Subject line: we need to talk.
Oh, the dreaded email.
The dreaded email. That is the raw data. Now, your brain has to assign a meaning.
Okay. Scenario A. My brain decides the meaning is, I'm getting fired.
Right. If meaning equals I'm getting fired, what is the instantaneous physiological action?
Panic. My stomach drops. I probably freeze or start looking for the exit.
Exactly. The action is freeze or flee. You didn't choose that. You didn't sit there and decide to feel panic.
No, it just happens.
The panic is the necessary physics of that specific meaning. Now, scenario B, same email, we need to talk. But you know you just crushed a huge project. What's the meaning now?
Meaning is I'm getting a promotion,
In the action.
excitement. I walk faster to his office. I'm leaning in.
Precisely. The external event was identical, but the meaning dictated the action. Lukens argues that we are puppets to our own meanings. We like to think we are the puppeteer, consciously choosing how to feel. But really, once you have assigned a meaning, once you've defined the tiger as dangerous, the emotional force hits you like gravity. You don't control the force drives you.
That is, well, it's a little disturbing to think of myself as a puppet. It
Yeah.
feels like we have no free will in this model.
Well, you don't have free will over the reaction once the meaning is set. You can't believe I'm about to die and simultaneously feel relaxed.
The physics won't allow it.
Exactly. But where you do have agency is in the meaning itself, but we'll get to that.
Okay, so we have this force driving us, but the theory also talks about circuits. This is really important for understanding why things go wrong, right?
It's crucial. Lukens suggests that every emotion is a program designed to run a specific circuit to completion. Think of it like a computer task. It opens, runs, and closes.
Okay, so walk us through a healthy circuit.
Take the emotion of interest. The biological purpose of interest is to attend. You see something new, the circuit opens, you focus on it, you examine it, you understand it. Once you've consumed that information, what happens to the interest?
Oh, it fades. You move on to the next thing.
Exactly. The circuit closes. Or take fear. The circuit is flee or conquer. You see a threat, you run away, you get safe. Once you are safe, the fear stops. The circuit is complete.
So the problem isn't the emotion itself. The problem is when the circuit doesn't close.
Right. The problem arises when these circuits get blocked or stalled. Imagine you have fear, but you can't flee and you can't conquer. You're trapped.
The energy has to go somewhere.
Right. That energy doesn't just evaporate. It becomes what Lukens calls perduring emotioning.
That's a mouthful, perduring emotioning.
It just means looping. It's a mood. A mood is just an emotion that hasn't been allowed to reach its terminus.
Like a broken record.
It's a background application on your phone that you can't swipe away, and it's draining your life force down to zero.
And this battery drain brings us directly to the big topic, depression. Because I think most of us, if we're honest, we think of depression as sadness. Just a really, really heavy sadness.
The heaviest sadness.
But the source material makes a distinction here that I found really challenging.
It is challenging, and it pushes against the mainstream view. Lukens argues that depression is not just an excess of sadness. In fact, he suggests depression is what happens when the sadness circuit itself is broken. He defines depression as an interest dysfunction.
An interest dysfunction. Unpack that.
Okay, think about appetite. You have a biological appetite for food. Hunger is the drive to consume calories.
I'm familiar.
In the emotional realm, Lukens says we have an interest appetite. We have a drive to consume meaning, to engage with the world, to take things in.
So a healthy person is hungry for life.
Yes. Even if life is hard, they are engaged with it. They're curious. Depression is the loss of that appetite. It is a failure to thrive of the emotional system.
It's emotional anorexia.
That's a great way to put it. It's like standing at a buffet of life, hobbies, friends, work, sex, art, and looking at it and feeling nothing. Or worse, feeling nausea.
Nausea is a good word for it.
Yeah.
It's not just that you won't eat. It's that the machinery that generates the urge to eat has been cauterized.
Exactly. Lukens describes the depressed individual as asking the universe, "What have you got?" And hearing the answer, "Nothing that matters."
Nothing that matters.
Yeah.
That is bleak. But I want to pause here because I feel like we often lump anxiety and depression together,
Yeah.
like they're cousins.
They get talked about in the same breath all the time.
But in this physics model, they are actually opposites, aren't they?
They are very distinct mechanics. The source uses a poker analogy that I think clarifies this perfectly. Imagine life is a poker game.
Okay, I'm at the table.
The person with anxiety is the player who hasn't seen their cards yet or is waiting for the river card. They are terrified of the bad cards that might be dealt.
It's all about the future.
It's all future. Their system is revved up in high alert, anticipatory vigilance. They are trying to control a future that hasn't happened.
So anxiety is, it's coming and I can't stop it.
Right. Now, the depressed player, they have already looked at their hand.
They've seen the card.
They see a total loss. They believe the bad hand has been dealt, the game is rigged, and they are powerless to change it. It is a failure of internal reality control.
So anxiety is fear of the future. Depression is a resignation to a terrible present.
Precisely. And that resignation leads to what Lukens calls the primal objection. He describes depression as a massive existential no to life,
Now,
a total rejection of the terms of existence.
and that rejection has to go somewhere. We don't just say no and it disappears. We store it. And this brings us to the star of the show, metaphorically speaking.
The fuck it bucket.
The fuck it bucket.
It's where interest goes to die.
So define this bucket for us. Is this just a cute name for our subconscious?
It's a bit more specific than that. The fuck it bucket is the storage facility in our minds for all our incompletions.
The block circuits.
All those blocked circuits. The grief we didn't finish, the fear we didn't process, the anger we swallowed. We shove them into the bucket.
And the source material breaks down exactly what is inside this bucket. And it's mostly two things, right?
Yes. Dr. Lukens argues that the bucket is filled primarily with two ingredients: unresolved grief and self-esteem wounds.
Let's talk about the grief part. He makes a really bold claim here, suggesting that unresolved grief accounts for the lion's share of psychic suffering.
He does. And he means grief in the broadest sense. Not just death, but the loss of a dream, the loss of a childhood you deserve but didn't get, the loss of a relationship. If you don't process that loss, if you don't run the sadness circuit to completion, it sits in the bucket. It just ferments.
And the second ingredient, self-esteem wounds.
These are the moments of invalidation, the times you were treated with contempt, the times you felt you weren't enough. These create a sludge of shame that fills the bucket alongside the grief.
Now, I have to play devil's advocate here. I think a lot of people listening might feel a little defensive.
I can see that.
They might say, I'm not storing this stuff on purpose, I'm just hurting. But Lukens talks about a specific mechanic called refusal. And that sounds, well, it sounds a little like victim blaming, like we're choosing to be miserable.
I'm glad you brought that up, because it is the most misunderstood part of the theory. When Lukens talks about refusal, he isn't saying you were being petulant or difficult on purpose. He's describing an unconscious defense mechanism.
Okay, so how does it work?
Imagine you touch a hot stove. Your hand recoils. That is a refusal of the heat. In the emotional realm, when we encounter massive pain like the death of a parent or a deep shame, our psyche recoils. We say, no, I cannot feel this. It will destroy me. That no is the refusal.
Well, we put a lid on it.
We put a lid on it. We stuffed it in the bucket. But here's the physics problem. Holding that lid down requires energy.
Conservation of energy.
Exactly. If you have a bucket full of screaming grief and shame, and you are spending 90% of your daily energy units just keeping the lid on so you don't break down,
how much do you have left?
how much energy do you have left to be interested in your job, or your spouse, or a sunset?
Zero. You're running on fumes.
Correct. The interest fracture happens because the system shuts down the interest mainframe to divert all power to the refusal shields. You aren't lazy. You are exhausted from the invisible work of repression.
That actually makes it feel much less judgmental. It's not a moral failing. It's an energy crisis.
It is exactly an energy crisis. And this is why fake it till you make it is such dangerous advice for someone with a full bucket.
Oh, yeah. Lukens hates that phrase. Fake it until you regret making it fake.
Right, because when you feel like garbage, that's your real self, but you force a smile and act happy, that's your storied self,
Yeah.
You are creating a disconnect. You are basically telling your inner self, your pain doesn't matter, look how well I can pretend you don't exist.
This is validating yourself.
Yeah. You're invalidating yourself, and that adds inauthenticity to the bucket. It just makes the sludge deeper.
So we have a broken interest drive, an energy crisis, and a bucket overflowing with refused grief and shame. It sounds like a trap. But the whole point of this deep dive is that there is a way out.
There is.
The source material provides a roadmap. We've extracted about 6 key strategies from the CICT method. And I want to go through these in detail because this is the toolkit.
Let's do it.
Strategy number 1 involves this concept of not refusing. But if refusals is a reflex, like pulling away from fire, how do we stop?
This is the hardest step. The concept here is the suffering isn't caused by the sadness. The suffering is caused by the refusal to be sad.
Wait, say that again? The sadness isn't the problem.
No. Sadness is a functional tool. Its job is to process loss. When you refuse to be sad, when you stiff upper lip it, when you distract yourself, you create the blockage. So the strategy is to stop fighting the experience.
So what does that look like on a Tuesday afternoon when I feel terrible?
It looks like surrender. It means saying, I am sad right now. That is a fact. Think of a Chinese finger trap. The more you pull away, the tighter it gets.
And the only way out is to push in.
The only way out is to push into the trap. You have to lean into the discomfort. Resistance replicates resistance. To heal, you must surrender to the reality of the feeling.
That is terrifying. but I get the logic.
Mm.
Okay, strategy number 2. This one's for the people who say, I have no interest, I don't care about anything. Lukens calls this reverse interest, or following the thread.
This flips the script. Lukens argues that even the most depressed person is actually very interested.
In what?
In avoiding pain.
Right. If I'm staying in bed, I am very committed to that bed.
Exactly. Resistance is an activity. It takes energy. So the strategy is, if you can't be interested in something good, like going to the gym, pay attention to what you are vividly avoiding.
So get curious about the no.
Yes, ask yourself, why is the urge to stay in bed so strong? What am I protecting myself from out there? By investigating the resistance, you are actually jump-starting the interest machinery. You are hacking the system by being interested in your lack of interest.
I love that. Be interested in your lack of interest.
Oh.
Okay, strategy number 3. This one is a specific exercise. It's about generating CBI.
CBI stands for Committed Benevolent Interest. And this is Lukens' definition of love. He says love isn't just a feeling, it's a stance. It is the antidote to contempt.
And he suggests practicing this on a wall.
Yes, the wall exercise. It sounds ridiculous, but stick with me. He suggests you sit and look at a blank wall, and you practice appreciating it just as it is.
So I'm just staring at drywall.
You're staring at drywall. But usually our brains are critique machines. We look at the wall and think that paint is uneven, or I should hang a picture there. We try to fix it.
Always finding fault.
The exercise is to turn off the fix-it switch and turn on the appreciate switch. This wall is functional, it is protecting me, it is enough.
And the point, obviously, isn't about the wall.
No. The wall is training wheels. If you can learn to look at a mundane object with committed benevolent interest instead of judgment, you are building the muscle to eventually look at yourself that way.
It's about changing a habit of mind.
It's about becoming a generator of love rather than a seeker of validation.
That leads perfectly into strategy 4, the mirror reckoning. This feels like the advanced version of the wall exercise.
This is where it gets heavy. We all have two selves, the storied self, the image we sell to the world. I'm a nice guy, I'm a supermom, and the real self. The real self is where the bucket lives.
And the real self is often not very pretty.
Right. The source text literally says you have to acknowledge the schmuck in the mirror.
The schmuck.
The schmuck. The wounded part, the petty part, the part that made mistakes. The strategy is to look in the mirror and have a brutally honest reckoning. Not, I am a goddess. Not positive affirmations.
No toxic positivity.
One, just, I am a flawed human who is hurting, and that is okay.
Why is calling yourself a schmuck healing? That sounds like it would make depression worse.
Because you cannot heal a self you are pretending doesn't exist. If you only love your storied self, your real self feels abandoned and unloved. You have to integrate them. You have to say, I see the mess and I am not leaving. That is self-love.
Wow. I see the mess and I am not leaving.
That hits hard.
Okay, strategy 5 connects back to the physics of the circuit. Complete the grief circuit.
This is the work of emptying the bucket. Sadness has a specific biological function, retrieval. We get sad to signal, I've lost something, I want it back.
But usually we can't get it back.
Right. The person is dead, the childhood is gone, but we get stuck in the retrieval phase, we ruminate, we bargain. If only I'd done this. The circuit is stuck.
So it just loops.
It loops. To complete it, you have to switch the track from retrieval to letting go.
And letting go isn't just a Pinterest quote here.
No. In this context, it means accepting the permanence of the loss. It is hitting the very bottom of the cry where you realize it is gone. It is never coming back.
That sounds devastating.
It is, but that devastation is the exit. Once you accept the permanence, the energy that was tied up in retrieval is released. It flows back into the system. You can't be interested in the future until you stop trying to retrieve the past.
Okay. And finally, strategy 6. This is for when you just need to get out of bed, regardless of how you feel. The contract.
This is the do before you feel principle.
Yeah.
We usually wait for the mood to strike us. I'll go for a walk when I feel like it.
Which is never if you're depressed.
Lukens says if your interest machine is broken, that signal will never come.
So you have to force it.
You have to parent yourself. He uses the analogy of a parent with a child who refuses medicine. The child you're feeling says, I can't take it, it tastes bad. The parent, your volition, your will, says, I know it tastes bad, I validate that, but you will and you must take it.
You will and you must.
It's a contract. You bypass the debate in your head. The I can't is usually a lie. It's really an I won't. You have to use your executive function to drag your emotional self through the motions until the engine catches.
This brings us to the clinical side. Because, let's be real, for some people, the bucket is too heavy to lift alone. That's where CICT, core issue completion therapy, comes in. How is this different from regular talk therapy?
Well, a lot of traditional therapy is about containment or coping. It teaches you how to manage your symptoms, how to live with the anxiety, how to distract yourself.
Which has its place, I imagine.
It does, but Lukens criticizes this as sometimes enabling the avoidance. You're just learning to be a better functioning depressed person.
And CICT is about not coping.
It's about completion. It uses a technique called flooding or intentional exposure.
Flooding, that sounds intense.
It is. Instead of sipping the medicine, you take the whole dose. The therapist helps you bring that refused emotional experience, that deep, terrifying grief or shame forward fully. You don't talk about the trauma. You feel the feelings you refused at the time of the trauma.
It's like lancing a boil.
Exactly. You have to break the fever of resistance. The therapist's job is to hold the space and prove to the client, look, you are feeling the thing you thought would kill you, and you are still alive. That breaks the fear loop.
It seems like we need more of this. Dr. Lukens suggests that if we look at society, unresolved grief is everywhere.
It's a staggering thought. If he's right, we are living in a society of the walking wounded. We have a culture that doesn't know how to grieve. We medicate pain. We distract from pain with screens. We refuse pain.
And if we shifted, if we stopped trying to control our moods and started completing our emotions,
we could potentially elevate the mental health of the entire population. We need to stop refusing our humanity. Being human means losing things. It means getting hurt. If we start shoving that into the bucket and start processing it, we regain our interest appetite.
we get our lives back.
We get our lives back.
It's a powerful message. It takes the shame out of depression. It's not that you're broken, it's that you're blocked.
Yeah.
And blocks can be cleared. So as we wrap up this deep dive into the physics of emotioning, let's do a quick recap. We've got E, M-A. We are puppets to the meanings we assign.
Got it. Then we've got the interest fracture, depression as a loss of appetite for life.
Driven by the fuck it bucket. That overflowing repository of refused grief and self-esteem wounds that drains our energy.
And the solution isn't to fake happiness, it's to stop refusing sadness.
It's to look in the mirror, acknowledge the schmuck, surrender to the reality of the loss, and empty the bucket so the circuit can run again.
And ultimately, to accept that you can't control the gravity, but you can learn how to stop fighting the fall.
We want to leave you with one final thought to mull over. We talk about the storied self versus the real self. The storyteller in your head versus the one who's actually feeling the pain.
This is the provocative question.
Are you the driver of your life? Or are you just the noisy backseat driver, shouting directions that the car isn't following, telling stories to explain away why you drove into a ditch?
Because if you are constantly narrating your life, I should be happy, I shouldn't be sad, but not actually feeling it, who is driving the car?
Challenge yourself this week. Look in the mental mirror, strip away the story of who you are, and try to see what interest or what refusal is actually steering the vehicle. You might be surprised by who or what is behind the wheel.
And that awareness is the first step to taking the keys back.
Thanks for taking the deep dive with us.
See you next time.